Hello, everyone. Welcome to this conversation. This is Empower Yourself, which is a Substack live series I'm hosting, having conversations with people talking about your voice, whether that is empowering how you speak in your life to other people, how you express yourselves, how you connect with your inner voice and the things that you're thinking on the inside. It's all around empowering all aspects of you and how you express yourself. We have got Lucy Werner as a guest today, who, as you can see by her lovely neon light, is all about hyping yourself. So we're going to focus on how we use our voices to hype ourselves and explore that as a subject. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you for having me, Tommy.
Thank you for being here. And maybe you could just tell everyone who doesn't know you who you are and what you do.
So my name is Lucy Werner, and I formerly ran a PR agency, but I now, after moving from London to rural France, have pivoted, and now I run a paid newsletter and membership called Hype Yourself, currently on Substack. And then I also teach for various accelerators and business platforms all about how small business owners and creative entrepreneurs can get themselves out there.
Yeah, and I'm a member of your community. Love everything about it. So everyone should join if you're not already a member. What is your experience with using your voice in your life and work?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I think one of the things that I try to pride myself on is when I meet people in real life who've maybe only met me online, they always say like, "Oh, you're just like how you are online." And I always take that as quite a good sign that I'm showing up. I hate the word like authentically, but like true to yourself. And I think one of the important parts when we're showing up as a personal brand for our business is that it isn't too much of a show. I definitely have, I say, a bit more of a drag performance side on like my Instagram, for example, where I have like the loud colors and the loud branding, and that makes me probably feel a bit more like I've got a big sequin jumpsuit on in terms of like that confidence boost. But it is still me. And I would say over time, especially since I relocated, where I'm probably working less than I've ever been in my life, my work identity and my personal identity have merged even closer together. So I think finding your voice to align with both sides of you, because some of us are more confident in our personal lives than we are in how we show up and work. And I think I'm one of the freaks who's the opposite. Like I feel very confident in how I show up as work and probably not so much in my personal life.
Yeah.
So finding a way to marry the two, I think, is quite important.
Yeah, I really love just hearing you describe that like persona you have in certain spaces, because coming from a performance background as a singer, I can really relate to, okay, when I'm on stage, yes, I would say I'm quite authentic. Again, I hate that word, but I'm very me in the way that I communicate with the audience. But it can help to feel like you're stepping into this other, I think Beyonce talks about like alter ego. And I think that's quite an interesting thing just to take away from this if you're watching, and just think about where are you amplifying the parts of yourself. So it's almost like you're just exaggerating what's really you, but in a way that it feels a bit more like a costume or a persona, so that you can go in with a bit more confidence. Do you know any example? Do you see people doing that quite well? And do you see when people maybe aren't tapping into that persona?
I think it's when people play to their strengths. So obviously we're going live on Substack. So if a lot of people there, I think, can really find their voice through writing, whereas the thought of doing a live or being on a podcast terrifies them. Whereas I think other people don't have the brain that works on that writing side. So they are better at showing up on podcast or on video or on stage. And I think it's finding the way that feels good to you, because then that inner confidence can come out. But I also think it's a muscle. Nobody comes out the gate and writes their first thing or does a podcast or stands on stage and immediately goes, that's great. And I think it's interesting to note that the bigger the speaker is, or the bigger the podcast host, or the bigger the writer, the more assistance and training they've done.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. And you just reminded me of an experience I had at school where I was kind of known as the singer of school just because I would do it a lot and people would say I was good. And there was sort of this persona of me being that role. And I think I sort of got to the point where I felt a bit overconfident. And I remember us having this performance, which was called a 24-hour variety show. So everyone just prepped something and everyone got on stage and did loads of different things. But I took it quite literally that time, was like, yeah, we'll just prep something the day before, it'll be fine. I got up on stage to sing Eye of the Tiger. No idea why we chose that song. Forgot all of the lyrics and literally just couldn't get them back. And it was that horrible experience, but actually such a helpful experience. I would never have got in that position again where I hadn't prepped enough. And here I am now doing exactly what you just said. For me, speaking feels so much easier in some ways than writing, but just a very quick way to express myself. I don't find it difficult. But then, I'm almost 40. That's years and years and years and years of practice of crashing and burning, getting it a bit wrong, figuring out what I need to do to get it right. And I suppose then be able to trust myself to wing it if I've got enough of the prep done. So, yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think is most important when it comes to hyping yourself? So the things that you teach and the things that you generally encourage people to do when it comes to connecting with our voice, what would you say is the most important thing?
I actually think it's really ticking off the basics that people don't do. So most of us, not all of us, but most of us are using our voice because we're selling a service or a product or a book or something.
Mm-hmm.
And yet when we land on your profile page on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Substack, on your website, what it is that you sell is often not apparent. So I think actually having the confidence to go, I'm just going to put a menu in my window. So if somebody's walking past and I'm not there, which we're not online chronically all the time, heaven forbid, that they know how to buy from us. So I think having a standalone, pinned, this is what you can buy from me, makes so many people feel cringy, but ultimately that's what we're all here to do. So I think having that confidence to just have a sign in your shop window is probably one of the basics that I would tick off. The other thing is, because people, I guess, see me as a PR expert, and to a certain extent it is PR, but for me it's broader profile raising, and there are questions around at which point that falls under marketing or which point that falls under SEO. But I'm really interested in all the easy ways that you can be raising your profile. And I think so many people focus on trying to get in print press coverage, which is actually a really long game and doesn't necessarily give you the business results that you want. That sometimes just showing up into a local business hub of 20 people and speaking could be so much more powerful for you. So I think actually really thinking about, where is my audience playing, and using your voice in those spaces rather than trying to get your voice in a really aspirational place because you think it makes you look good. I think there's definitely a place for kudos for sure. But increasingly, I think it's actually about using your voice to showcase your craft, not to showcase, oh, look where I've been, look where I've been featured. I'm actually more interested in somebody who says something really clever.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the one thing I've taken away from being part of your community. And it's almost like a mantra, hype yourself, isn't it? It's you can just apply it. Okay, how can I hype myself in this situation? And I've done both, and I don't feel that focused on the typical, like you're saying, the big publications or things like that. I spent the first half of last year just meeting people in my local community, and ended up building a group that I was coaching for a few months. And I'm so integrated, and it's actually just way better for the soul as well, because you feel that true human connection. And I notice that's the times when I have more success, is when I'm able to have a conversation with someone. And I love that. If I just think, okay, how can I hype myself? It can be such a small thing. And I was just reading about the guy you met at the Cannes Lion festival.
The student.
Yeah, the student. And just that being the takeaway, being amongst people, talking to people, and that being a
100%. And I think people, I almost considered a name change of Hype Yourself. And also, I think in part because I did used to sort of pose on Instagram with the megaphone. And actually, I've almost sort of gone completely other way. And I think part of that is because I'm not in London anymore and I am in this rural location in Provence. But also, I see the way as hyping yourself as being a lot more subtler than shouting into a megaphone. For me, that is going back on an email and saying, yes, that price you offered me is okay, but actually I normally charge this. Or thanks for doing this project with me. Actually, would you consider doing a build on of that, of this? And they're much subtler ways of hyping what it is that you do. But having that confidence to ask for more money or pitch for more work, I think is a most underrated hyping tool. It's actually, a lot of it is what we're doing behind the scenes that no one even sees.
And they don't necessarily need to see either. And I think that's what I'm feeling excited about these conversations and this idea of empowering your voice. Is it's what are the mini little moments that happen day to day, because then that creates the bigger impact or the bigger picture or the biggest
Yeah,
change.
100%. Like I was talking today on my lunchtime session about podcasts, and I was saying one of the things that I'm kind of going against what I said, because I said I don't really talk about this, but one of the things that I do is actually looking who else has been invited to the table. And sometimes that means giving up your seat to make sure that there is equity and diversity and who's being featured. And so I think also part of hyping yourself is also bringing up others around you and making sure that other people are getting a voice too, because it's very easy to be like, I'm just going to vacuum up all these opportunities for myself. But it's also really important to use your voice to actually silence it and give it to somebody else who's probably sometimes is more deserving.
Yeah, and knowing when someone else is maybe a better fit for something, and it's the payback, isn't it? Again, that was in your article that I read, is the treat, almost like that, treating others how you want to be treated, but it's reputation. And I so remember doing music as a kid, and my stepmom, who worked for BMG Records, so like quite mainstream music, was like, always be nice to people, always, like, I suppose it's act professionally, but as a kid it's like being nice, and it gets around, like, and you will get opportunities by acting in that way and conducting yourself in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like how you judge somebody by how they treat the waiting staff.
Oh, yeah. When do you see, I was kind of thinking when you were talking about putting in your shop window, and that advice is great, but I was wondering about, what about for the people who might be watching this who are like, oh, I don't know what the thing is yet. So, like having your book is such an easy, here's the book, it's the title of my business, it's a product. If you're at the stage where you're in development mode, are there any ways you would say to nurture?
I would just get people on your wait list, get people on your newsletter, get people's information, because we're so reliant on social media channels or newsletter platforms. And actually the best thing to do is to have, your own website collecting your own data. So it could be you're doing a quiz or a survey, or there's just something interactive for them to do, so they can be first in line when you are ready to get something out.
Yeah. Okay. And the other part of that is, I was going to say, do you notice people getting stuck on a particular point? So you're obviously teaching so many ways that people can do what you're advising. Where do people tend to hit a wall or lose their voice or feel like they're like blocked in some way?
I think time is a barrier, because it often falls to the bottom of the pile. And I think knowing what to say, we can be really focused on telling our business story or what it is that we're launching, or like the news element of it, and thinking we need a press release. Whereas I think the most important thing is thinking about the human interest piece and how that relates, like your personal story. So, for example, rather than me saying, oh, here's how to hype yourself, it could be like, here's 3 surprising ways that I've hyped myself that's led to blah, blah, blah. And just that slight pivot to put your personal layer on it. I think it's really important. I often think as well, and this is maybe a bit combative, but people are quite lazy. And so they come to me and go, can I have a list of podcasts? Can I have a list of journalists? Can I have, and I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, actually, to hype yourself effectively, it is 100% quality over quantity. And I even mean that in terms of it's better for me to speak to somebody with a podcast with 100 listeners that's the perfect fit for me than being featured by somebody who has hundreds of thousands, but they're not going to be the right person to sign up to my work. But also, I think there is this feeling where we are impressed by people with big followers or being featured in big publications or collaborating with big names, that our ego lets us take over into actually who aligns properly with what I believe in, and to empower my voice, who do I really want to be seen alongside? Like, because whoever you're doing a live with or whoever you speak to, that you are going to then be positioned alongside them. So if you're not agreeing with them politically, if you're not agreeing with them, across multiple things, that could come back to bite you later. And I've seen it where people have partnered with big named entrepreneurs, and then when that entrepreneur's been cancelled or blown up, they are suddenly getting caught in that crossfire. So I think you have to really be careful about really knowing the publication and the people that you want to be partnering with, and not just going for those big names to say, as seen in X. Really actually focus on what are your business goals and where can you play to hit that. That I think that for me, it would be my biggest like hype yourself takeaway is, yes, I'm very much like have the dream publication and go for it. In fact, I was showing today, like my mood board is like logos of places I want to be. And I think it's great to have the dream big, but also before I'd even approach them, I would really dig into what the content is, who are they talking to, who they've spoken to that's maybe like me or not like me. So it gives me that space. But that's why I think if you get a list, you're lazy and you do this one message hits all, and that doesn't connect with anybody.
Yeah, and I think it like you're saying, people showing up and being like, okay, tell me who to approach. I'm in that really uncomfortable figuring out of something at the moment. And it's the background stuff we don't see. So you hear someone on a podcast, you're like, oh, amazing, they got on that, I want that. But it's the figuring out, and I've really noticed in myself, like I'm 7 years into my coaching business. I'm not at the beginning, but it's ever evolving all of the time, and I've had to really talk to myself, like, keep showing up for this work that you're trying to figure out. I was even doing it today. I was just like, I just want to be finished, but I know that I have to keep rumbling with it to just figure out exactly what you're saying. Why is this important to me? And when I figure that out, it's so much easier to then articulate it to someone and share it and hype it, because I'm so clear on what it is and why it's important. But yeah, I was going to ask, what would you sort of say as a takeaway? But you've just said it, so you're one step ahead of me. Kind of know how these things work. I was going to say, maybe if there are any questions, and loads of people watching, so hi. Lovely to have you here. If there are any questions, let us know. And actually, maybe if anyone wants to hype anything in the comments, please do, because I was going to say perhaps we could end with hyping something each. What are you currently hyping?
I think there's like the nice, joyful, live delay between you asking something and then the chat coming through, or they're just watching passively, which is fine. We like that. We like that too. I feel like, Tommy, I'm going to flip the hosting back on you, being like, don't you have a retreat coming up that you want to be hyping?
I am hyping, and I would love to hype. Yeah, I'm hosting a creative retreat day called Blueprint Your Season, which is on the 26th of September with Ease Retreats. The lovely Tanya's hosting us. It's something that I've run several times over the years, but I realised not for about 2 or 3 years, because I've just been chucking out a second child who's old enough now for me to be back to things. And the day the day was always centered around creative business owners and it being a day to sort of work on your business rather than in your business. But I've slightly pivoted that in that I think it's so important for us all to just prioritize ourselves for a day, whether that's figuring out what's the next like life project, what are the next things you want to happen, or whether it is business. And the whole point is you're designing a blueprint for the season, so the autumn season, the second, like the last part of the year, so that you're really clear on what you want to make happen, but it coming from a place that's like so your opinions, your wants, working to your strengths, not me saying this is how you should approach something. So we're going to do a morning of creativity. There's going to be a little bit of singing. There's going to be some great creative tools, probably a bit of vision collaging because I do it so often in my work. And we're going to get out into nature as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. There's been a few hypes in the comments now.
Has been a few hypes. I love a good hype. Well, Matthew Knight was like, it's too hot to hype, which I totally agree. There was a too hot to hype cut off point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only just about surviving. I can't wait to get that fan back on, but I thought it'd be a bit noisy. June said my collab with Perry Moppins. Oh, that's a bit of a twister. Rebranding Parenthood and shared a link there. Amazing. Tess, co-founder of Coach Online. I'm hyping my easy way to build your own email list by planning, creating and launching a lead magnet. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And if anyone's catching the replay of this, you're very welcome to hype away in the comments as well, or I don't know, wherever it ends up. Yeah. Thank you, Lucy, for joining me.
You're very welcome. It's nice to be collaborating on a micro hype together.
Yes, exactly. And one last hype is if anyone would like to join me on this series, I'm looking for more guests. So if there's something you think you could bring to the table, please message me and let me know.
Hype yourself with Tommy.
Yeah. And there's more comments coming in. Julie has got her book, and Eleanor hyping your book out in September as well. Oh, lovely. So everyone should just have a look at each other's. And I'll let you all go now, and I'm going to go back to my fan.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much. Bye. Thank you for watching, everyone.